The brush trembled in Marcus's hand as he added the final stroke. Paint splattered across his worn-out jeans, evidence of another night spent chasing the colors in his mind. His small bedroom had transformed into a makeshift studio, canvases leaning against walls, tubes of paint scattered across his desk. And there, on his easel, stood his masterpiece. It wasn't just a painting. It was everything he'd poured into the last 3 months. Every hope, every dream, every silent prayer that art could be his way out. "This is it," he whispered to himself, stepping back to admire the piece. The canvas showed a bird breaking free from a cage, its wings spread wide against a sunrise. It was raw, it was real, it was him. Marcus had entered the city's youth art competition, and today was submission day. The winner would receive a scholarship to the prestigious Riverside Art Academy and a feature in the local gallery. For a 17-year-old kid from the East Side, this was more than an opportunity. It was salvation. He glanced at the clock. 7 in the morning. His stepmother, Diana, would be awake soon. Marcus carefully lifted the canvas, ready to wrap it for transport. His heart raced with anticipation. After years of her dismissing his passion as a waste of time, maybe this would finally prove her wrong. The door to his room swung open without warning. Diana stood in the doorway, her expression cold as winter frost. "What's this mess?" she demanded, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "It's my painting," Marcus said, trying to keep his voice steady. "For the competition. I told you about it last month." "Competition?" Diana laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You're 17 years old, Marcus. You should be thinking about getting a real job, not playing with colors like a child." "This is real to me," Marcus replied, his grip tightening on the canvas edges. "The scholarship could change everything. I could go to art school. "You could what? Become some starving artist living in a basement? I've supported you long enough. Your father left me with nothing but you, and all you do is waste time on this foolishness." The words stung. His father had died 2 years ago, and Diana had never let him forget that she considered Marcus a burden. But he'd never heard the venom in her voice reach this level. Something was different today. Something was wrong. "Let me see this so-called masterpiece," Diana said, stepping closer. Marcus hesitated, then slowly turned the canvas toward her. For a moment, just a moment, he thought he saw something flicker in her eyes. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. But it vanished as quickly as it appeared, replaced by something darker. "A bird breaking free," she muttered. "How poetic, how utterly pathetic." Before Marcus could react, Diana grabbed the canvas. "No!" he shouted, reaching for it, but she was faster. With a strength fueled by years of resentment, she raised it above her head. "You want to fly away? You want to leave me here while you chase some fantasy? Not while I'm under your roof." The sound of tearing canvas echoed through the small room. Marcus watched in horror as his stepmother ripped through 3 months of work, of hope, of dreams. The bird's wings separated from its body, the sunrise split down the middle, paint cracked and flaked as she crumpled the pieces in her fists. "There," Diana said, dropping the destroyed remains at his feet. She turned and walked out, leaving Marcus standing there, staring at the ruins of everything he'd worked for. He dropped to his knees, picking up the torn pieces with shaking hands. The submission deadline was in 4 hours. There was no time to create something new. Years of being told he wasn't good enough, that art was foolish, that he should give up. It all came crashing down at once. Marcus sat on his bedroom floor for what felt like hours, but was only minutes. The torn canvas pieces lay scattered around him like fallen leaves. He could hear Diana in the kitchen, the clatter of dishes, the hum of the coffee maker, life going on as if she hadn't just destroyed his future. Then something inside of him shifted. It started as a whisper, then grew into a roar. She wanted him to quit. She expected him to give up. That's what she'd always expected. But maybe that's exactly why he couldn't. Marcus stood up, wiping his eyes with the back of his paint-stained hand. 4 hours. He had 4 hours to create something even better, not despite what Diana did, but because of it. The fire in his chest wasn't anger anymore, it was determination. He grabbed a fresh canvas, the last one he owned. His hands moved without thinking, mixing colors with a fury he'd never felt before. This time, he wasn't painting what he thought the judges wanted to see. He was painting truth. He was painting pain and resilience. He was painting every moment of being told he wasn't enough. The new piece took shape rapidly. Instead of a bird breaking free from a cage, he painted a phoenix rising from flames. The colors were bolder, angrier, more alive. Every brushstroke carried the weight of everything Diana had tried to take from him. 3.5 hours later, Marcus stepped back. His new painting wasn't just good, it was extraordinary. It was visceral and raw in ways his first piece never was. Sometimes, he realized, destruction can create something more powerful than what came before. He carefully wrapped the canvas and slipped out of the house while Diana was watching television. The bus ride to the community center felt surreal. He kept expecting to wake up, to find this was just another cruel dream. But when he walked through the doors with 15 minutes to spare, the reality of what he'd accomplished hit him. "Cutting it close," the registration volunteer said with a smile. "Let's see what you got." Marcus unwrapped his painting. The volunteer's smile faded into something more serious. Awe, maybe, or respect. "This is powerful," she said quietly. "What's the title?" Marcus hadn't thought about a title. He looked at his phoenix, at the flames that couldn't contain it, at the determination in every brushstroke. "Rising," he said. "It's called Rising." The next 2 weeks were torture. Marcus went to school, came home, did his chores, and avoided Diana as much as possible. She never mentioned the destroyed painting. It was as if it never happened. But Marcus felt different. He walked taller, spoke clearer. Something had changed in that moment of creation from destruction. On a Thursday afternoon, his phone buzzed with an unknown number. Marcus almost didn't answer, but something made him pick it up. "Is this Marcus Chen?" a professional voice asked. "Yes, speaking." "This is Jennifer Martinez from the Youth Art Initiative. I'm calling about your submission, Rising." Marcus's heart stopped. This was it, the rejection, the confirmation that Diana was all along right. "Marcus, I wanted to be the first to tell you. You've won. First place. The judges were unanimous. Your piece spoke to something deeply human about resilience and transformation. The scholarship is yours." The world tilted. Marcus had to sit down on the curb outside school, phone pressed to his ear, as Jennifer explained the details. Gallery opening, media coverage, full scholarship. Everything he dreamed of was suddenly real. "Thank you," he managed to say. "Thank you so much." When Marcus got home, Diana was in the living room. He walked past her, heading to his room, but she called out, "You're late. Where were you?" Marcus turned back, and for the first time in years, he looked at her without fear or resentment. "I was on the phone with someone from the art competition. I won. First place." Diana's face went through several emotions: disbelief, shock, and something that might have been regret. "You what?" "I won," Marcus repeated calmly. "The piece you destroyed? I made something better, something stronger. The scholarship to Riverside is mine. I start next fall." For once, Diana had nothing to say. Marcus watched her struggle with the reality that everything she tried to suppress had flourished anyway. He didn't wait for her response. He walked to his room, closed the door, and for the first time in months, he breathed freely. The gallery opening came 2 weeks later. Marcus stood in the Community Art Center, surrounded by local artists, community leaders, and people who actually valued creativity. His painting, Rising, hung in the place of honor at the center of the main wall. People approached him all night with congratulations. "Your use of color is remarkable," one artist said. "The emotion in this piece, I can feel it," another commented. Each word of praise was another piece of validation that yes, his passion was real, yes, his talent mattered, yes, he was enough. Near the end of the evening, Marcus noticed Diana standing in the back of the gallery. She'd come. He didn't know why, and part of him didn't care, but as he watched her stare at his painting, at the phoenix rising from flames that looked remarkably like the torn pieces of his destroyed canvas, he saw something break in her expression. She didn't approach him, she didn't apologize, but when their eyes met across the room, Marcus saw recognition. She understood, finally, what she'd tried to destroy, and, more importantly, she understood that she'd failed. Marcus turned back to his painting, to his phoenix, to his future. The director of Riverside Art Academy was walking toward him with a smile, eager to discuss his first semester. The local newspaper wanted an interview. A small gallery downtown was interested in displaying his work. Everything was changing. Everything was beginning. 6 months later, Marcus moved into the dorms at Riverside. His room was small but his own. Walls he could paint, space he could fill with canvases and colors and dreams. Diana had been quiet since the gallery opening. They'd spoken only in necessary exchanges. But on the day he packed to leave, she'd left an envelope on his desk. Inside was a check for $500 and a note in her cramped handwriting. For art supplies. You were right. I was wrong. Marcus stared at the note for a long time. It wasn't an apology, not really. It didn't erase years of dismissal and cruelty, but it was acknowledgement. It was the closest thing to redemption Diana could offer. He tucked the note into his sketchbook, not because he'd forgiven her completely, but because it represented something important. Even the people who try to break us can sometimes see the truth. Even destruction can become creation. On his first day at Riverside, Marcus stood in the university's main gallery, surrounded by student artwork that challenged and inspired him. His own piece from the competition hung in the freshman showcase, Rising, the phoenix that refused to be consumed by flames. A girl approached, studying the painting carefully. "This is yours?" she asked. "Yeah," Marcus said. "It's incredible. What inspired it?" Marcus smiled, remembering that morning in his small bedroom, the torn canvas, the moment he decided to rise. "Someone once tried to destroy my dreams," he said. "I painted this to prove they couldn't." The girl nodded, understanding in her eyes. "I think a lot of us here have a story like that. The ones who tried to stop us just made us stronger." "Exactly," Marcus agreed. That night, in his small dorm room, Marcus began a new painting. This one wasn't about rising from destruction. It was about flight, pure, unrestrained, joyful flight. Because he'd learned the most important lesson. No one can destroy your dreams if your passion burns brighter than their doubt. The brush moved across the canvas, creating something beautiful from nothing. And Marcus Chen, the boy who'd been told art was foolish, who'd watched his masterpiece torn apart, who'd risen from those ashes stronger than before, he smiled. Because this was just the beginning. If this story inspired you, if Marcus's journey reminded you of your own struggles and victories, do me a favor, hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that their dreams are worth fighting for. And subscribe to this channel, because every week we bring you stories of real people overcoming real obstacles. Stories that prove no matter how many times life tries to break you, you can always rise again. Drop a comment below telling me about a time someone tried to stop your dreams. How did you prove them wrong? What's your Phoenix moment? I read every single comment, and your stories matter. Remember, the people who try to dim your light are usually afraid of how brightly you shine. Don't let them win. Keep creating, keep dreaming, keep rising. Until next time, stay inspired.